One of the frustrating things in translation is the English inability to distinguish second person singular from second person plural. Does you refer to one person or more than one? Now, sometimes you can tell from the context whether it's singular or plural, but other times you can't. And those are the passages that it's interesting to watch the translations and see how they bring across the fact that it's either singular or plural, or they don't do anything at all. One of the frustrations in translating into English is our inability to distinguish second person singular and plural. And usually the context will make it clear, but not always. Case in point, in Gethsemane, was Jesus frustrated with Peter or with Peter, James, and John? Now, before the evening of his death, Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane. He took Peter, James, and John off by themselves while he prayed. And when he returned, we read, he went to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "So could you not keep watch with me for a single hour?" Now, what caught my attention was over here in the NIV, where it says, "Couldn't you men keep watch with me?" Men? There's no Greek word behind men. Interestingly, the NASB has men, but it italicizes it. And over here in the TEV, they say, "How is it that you three were not able to keep watch with me for even 1 hour?" If you look at any of the other major translations, they all just say you. Here's the problem. The Greek is second person plural. Eskusate. It's explicitly and clearly second person plural. And here's the problem. When the text says, he said to Peter, "So could you not keep watch with me for a single hour?" We're certainly going to think that Jesus is focusing his rebuke on Peter, you singular. But the Greek makes it explicitly clear that while addressing Peter, Jesus' rebuke includes all three. That's why the verb is plural. You know, translation almost always over or under translates. If you say you in this passage, you're under translating, since the Greek contains additional information, namely that the you is plural. If you over translate and say men or three to make the number of the verb explicit, then you're adding a word to the original passage where there is no anthropos or aner. This is the fine art of translation. The science is pretty straightforward, frankly, but the art side is often knowing how to compromise. If only translation were as simple as transferring words from one language into another, being, quote, essentially literal. But in this verse, it's certainly inaccurate to simply say you, since by the normal rules of grammar, after all, it does say, he said to Peter, singular. The you would understand it as just Peter, and that miscommunicates. Much better to convey the actual meaning from one language to another, and to do so clearly. After all, the Greek is explicitly plural.